Fortune's Progeny, The Ascent. Episode 5, The Cushion and the Insight. The Thursday coffee with Maya was a fragile truce, but it held. For 45 minutes, he kept his phone buried in his pocket and talked about her latest architectural project, a community library design that clearly animated her. He asked questions, listened to her frustrations about zoning boards, and offered no opinions on anything more complex than the quality of the brownies. When they parted, she squeezed his hand.
This was nice. The real you showed up.
It wasn't forgiveness for the weeks of absence. It was a probationary reprieve. He logged it as a small win. The respite was short-lived. 2 days later, his 2008 sedan gave up on a rainy Tuesday, 2 miles from his apartment. The engine seized with a final metallic shriek, and he coasted to the gravel shoulder, rain drumming on the roof. The tow truck and the mechanic's diagnosis the next morning were a 1-2 punch: worn bearings, a shot axle, and a repair estimate of $1,100. A year ago, this would have been a catastrophe, a fresh wound carved into his credit card. Now his mind processed the crisis with a new, almost detached clarity. He had his $1,200 starter emergency fund, the wall, but he was also in the heart of Foundation Step 2, attacking the $3,100 personal loan with every spare dollar. Using the emergency fund meant pausing his avalanche for 2 months to rebuild it. It was his first real test of the system's hierarchy. He called Silas, explaining the dilemma between the cushion and the momentum.
This is not a dilemma.
Silas's voice was calm over the phone, unruffled by the crisis.
This is the system working exactly as designed. What is the purpose of the Foundation Step 1 Emergency Fund?
To handle emergencies so I don't go into more debt.
Trent recited.
Precisely. This is not an investment opportunity or a vacation. It is a stupid, predictable life event. You use the fund. You pay the mechanic in cash. You do not touch your debt avalanche payment. You then pause the avalanche only to rebuild your emergency fund back to $1,000 as fast as possible. Then you resume the attack. The wall did its job. The system held.
The relief was profound, almost dizzying. There was no panic, no desperate calculation. There was a protocol, a script for life's inevitable chaos. Trent authorized the repair. He transferred the money from the online savings account, watching the balance plummet from $1,200 to a vulnerable-looking $100. It stung, but it was the sting of order, not despair. The system was a machine, and this was a scheduled maintenance stop. Over coffee with Maya that Thursday, the second of what he hoped would become a ritual, he told her about it. Her reaction was different from what he expected.
So your first instinct wasn't, how do I borrow?
She said, stirring her latte.
It was, which of my pots of money do I use?
Yeah, it felt adult.
Maya gave a small, impressed smile.
It is. It's resilient. Most people I know would have panic sold something or put it on a card and hoped for the best. You had a plan for the unplanned.
Her words were a validation he hadn't known he needed. The system wasn't just about spreadsheets. It was about creating a self that could weather storms without crumbling. He was becoming that self. The mechanic's work took 3 days. During that time, carless and cash light, Trent took the bus to work, read 2 books he'd been neglecting, and thought about the nature of emergencies. The car breakdown was a nuisance, not a catastrophe, precisely because he'd prepared for nuisance. The real catastrophes, the ones that destroyed lives, were just nuisances that had compounded without a wall to stop them. When the car was ready, he drove it home with a new appreciation for its solid, unglamorous reliability. It was, he realized, a lot like his index fund. The next Insight challenge arrived in the vault, and it was not about finance. The file was titled, Aethelgard-owned Greenwise Urban Garden Centers are seeing declining foot traffic in suburban locations. Propose one low-cost, high-impact strategy to increase community engagement and sales. For days, he stared at the blank document, churning through corporate jargon. Implement a digital loyalty program. Optimize Google My Business listings.
It was all correct, soulless, and exactly what a consultant would say. The deadline loomed. Frustrated, he took a walk, ending up at the very type of struggling suburban strip mall Greenwise occupied. He stood across the street, observing. The storefront was clean but invisible. People hurried past to the big box hardware store next door, carts overflowing. No one glanced at Greenwise. Then he saw her, an older woman, struggling to lift a heavy bag of potting soil from her cart into a sedan. Without thinking, Trent crossed the street and helped her heft it into the trunk.
You're a dear. My tomatoes just won't wait, but my back certainly will,
she said, breathless with effort. Trent smiled.
My grandmother used to say the best tomatoes are the ones that almost kill you getting them in the ground.
The woman's face lit up.
Exactly. You understand. That young man in there?
She nodded toward Greenwise.
He tried to sell me some fancy self-watering box. Didn't want to hear about my heirloom seeds.
A spark ignited in Trent's mind. He thanked the woman and walked not to his apartment, but to Maya's studio.
You have that I've been staring at a spreadsheet too long look,
she said, looking up from her drafting table.
I need a non-spreadsheet brain. If a place feels invisible, how do you make it a destination? Not with ads, with gravity.
Maya put down her pencil.
You create a reason for community to gather, a shared purpose. In architecture, we call it a third place. Not home, not work. A place for connection.
She pointed to a community center model on her shelf.
The building isn't the point. The shared activity inside it is.
Community. Shared purpose. A third place. Trent returned home and deleted his corporal proposals. He opened a new document and typed a title. Project Rootstock. Transforming Greenwise from a retailer into a community hub. His proposal was simple, low cost, and profoundly human. 1. Saturday soil sessions. Free weekly workshops in the store's unused back area, led not by sales staff, but by local master gardeners, hobbyists, and even children showing off their school projects. 2. Plot-to-plate partnerships. Partner with the struggling local cafe 2 doors down. Greenwise would provide herbs and easy-grow vegetables. The cafe would create specials featuring them, driving traffic both ways and creating a symbiotic local economy. 3. The seed swap wall. A physical board where customers could leave and take packets of seeds, accompanied by handwritten notes about their history or growing tips. Creating exchange, not just transaction. Building a community of knowledge. He didn't mention ROI. He wrote about rebuilding the social fabric of a strip mall. He hit submit just before the deadline, feeling he had either just proven his worth or revealed himself as hopelessly naive. There was no middle ground.